Kamala finally gave that interview, boy. I hope the niggas finally shut the fuck up about that shit, cause that shit's starting to hurt my motherfucking nerves. Oh shit, record. Hey, Kamala finally gave her interview. Very uneventful if you ask me. CNN, I'm not even giving y'all an interview any name recognition because for all of the questions that America has and all of the people that have been saying, well, Kamala ain't sat down yet and gave an interview, for y'all to allow that woman to sit down and ask those bullshit ass questions, I'm ashamed. If you've seen the interview, you would have noticed that most of the interview was her getting questioned or asked to respond to critiques or flat out hate that Trump has put out there or the Republicans have been putting out there against her. She wasn't asked any real policy related questions. She wasn't asked any real hard hitting questions. She wasn't asked any real questions about what she's going to do policy wise or really that's going to impact the American people. What we seen was her asking questions about stances and things from 2018, 20 old stuff that echo Republican hate. Whenever Kamala got the opportunity to, she very skillfully and craftily maneuvered the question or the answer to include some policy or some idea of what she's going to do for the American people. One question that was asked, and it's kind of a bullshit question, if you will, what are you going to do with the first day in office? When you really understand politics, you know that without a cabinet, without Congress moving, without a lot of different things in place, there's not a lot that a president could do on that very first day in office. You can sign some executive orders like Biden did, where Biden signed an executive order to analyze the federal government's policies and laws and see how it impacted racism and see where we can make better choices as a federal government. You can do executive actions like that, but you can't do too many because Biden did what, 12? I'm not sure how many Trump did, but executive actions on the first day is not something that we see a lot of times happening. One thing that she did talk about in a lot of different ways was strengthening the middle class. She talked about her policies in regards to giving a $25,000 credits to first-time home buyers. She talked about the $6,000 child tax credit. Now, here's the thing about that $6,000 tax credit. Tim Walz has already been doing it. And he even said during the interview, he's excited to get a federal partner to do it on a federal level because he's seen what it's done for his state in combating childhood poverty. Now that was interesting. I'm not even gonna lie to you, I thought Kamala had pulled that one out of thin air. I didn't know that Tim Walz had already been doing it. To find out that they already have the framework for it is even more interesting because that's a policy that has some weight behind it. She talked about investing in small biz. She talked about a number of different policies that will impact and help us. Now, one of the moments after Kamala had laid out a lot of policy and shifted the question completely, the interviewer thought she had a moment where she was going to have a gotcha moment, but it wasn't a gotcha moment because again, Kamala very skillfully and craftily flipped some of these questions because the interviewer said, well, if you have all these ideas, why did you guys do it as vice president? Why did you do it when you were VP? And Vice President Kamala Harris had to remind her that when her and President Biden took over the administration, we were in the middle of a pandemic that was very poorly managed by the previous administration. So before you can institute and implement all of these things to help America grow, you got to recover first. With inflation under 3%, we know we have to do something about these high-ass prices that are getting charged in the stores by these crooked-ass corporations. But I would say that Bidenomics has done a pretty decent job of helping America recover post-COVID. Now we have the framework and the basis to be able to grow from. For all of you that say, well, she come out with all these ideas, why she didn't do it when she was VP? Y'all must have forgot what we looked like coming out of COVID. Y'all must have forgot that Trump basically bumbled the recovery to COVID. A lot of people died that didn't have to die in COVID. Don't. I'm not going to overshadow that. In order for us to have grown as a country, we had to recover first. That's what we see. She talked about the border deal that was killed by Trump. We all know about that. That was another one of those times where this is why I won't give CNN's interview any name credit because she basically echoed a lot of Republican hate. They brought up the border, and I find it interesting that they could bring up Kamala being tasked with securing the border, but they won't bring up the Republicans that crafted the bill on the border and worked so many hours and spent so many taxpayer dollars on just research and putting this bill together, and then they killed their own bill because Donald Trump said, "Hey, don't worry about that. That won't give me any political cool points, so don't do it." Yes, that happened. That really, really happened. It really happened, y'all. She shifted it and reminded the American people that, hey, she's the only person in this race that actually has defended our border as a prosecutor. Now, the one takeaway that I did think was interesting from Kamala's interview on CNN was that she said that she would entertain the thought of actually having a Republican on her cabinet because she understands that America is just not made up of people with one type of ideology. That there are people with different types of ideologies in this world, and you need that consensus in order to make sure that you're making decisions and policy that serve the American people fully. And that spoke to me because that's a very progressive thought. And as I said in my previous video, we've seen a lot of Republicans that are, in my opinion, going back to those original pre-Civil War Republican values. They're now starting to support the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party's ideology is in line with the original Republican Party's ideology. So real staunch and true Republicans are supporting Kamala because of that. They're not supporting Kamala because she's black. They're not supporting Kamala because she's a woman. They're supporting Kamala because she represents their ideologies that started way back pre-Civil War. Not all this Tea Party MAGA bullshit. The hot button topic that was talked about. She's already let her stance be known on the Israel and Hamas war. It hasn't really changed from what we've seen on the convention stage. And when they talked about Tim Walz misspeaking, I just got one thing to say about that. A lot has been made about Tim Walz and his wife, misspeaking about the type of IVF they use and his service and all this other jazz. I'm gonna say it just. I'm gonna say it like this. I think Tim Walz has said the least amount of lies of anybody that we've seen between the Republican and Democratic Party on this presidential and vice presidential ticket in the last 10 years. Trying to highlight, oh, he said IVF and they used it. He said he carried guns in the war. Your baby mama been lying to you for how long? Your baby daddy been lying to you for how long? Get the fuck out of here with all that bullshit, man. Y'all kiss my ass.